Plant-based morning show. I got a bunch of super fun topics today. I'm actually pretty pumped about this episode, despite less than ideal health and sleep outlook. I'll be adding Doug in here in just a minute, and then I can bring you and him up to speed about what's going on. Uh, Doug, I'm not seeing anything. I don't even see a single person in the video yet. Oh, I think I'm on Real Matt Frazier. Oh boy. Okay, hold on. I got to go off of this.
Are you starting over?
Hey, Doug, you hear me?
Yeah, you starting over?
Yeah, but we're still on the regular stream. So everyone who's on the multi stream, sorry for the hiccup. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use the nifty button that
Okay.
lets me put a little countdown or something if I can find it. Man, it's like a key opportunity. It's just like yesterday, I couldn't find the Taco Bell button. Okay, here we go. I was super pumped for the show today and had a bunch of good topics to get to, and then realized that no one was joining at all, including Doug, and I was very confused about what was going on. Okay, here's Doug. Doug, I've added you to the multi-stream now, and now you're being added to Instagram. I was concerned. I thought we lost all our whole audience overnight when I went live. How's it going, Doug?
Morning. I'm doing all right. That was a fun little switcheroo we had there.
Yeah, it's funny. I yesterday after we got off our show, we did the early show yesterday, 10 a.m. So most people here probably were not at that one. I was like, wow, I was like kind of foggy and blurry the whole time. I was just weird. I woke up in a strange, not mood yesterday, just like condition.
Yeah.
And so it was just sort of a weird show, I thought, but felt like it was fine. And then as the day went on, I realized there was like 4 different things that I discovered that I had said incorrectly. So I have some redactions for today.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Let's hear.
But then just to compound things, my sleep was terrible last night. I woke up at 2:30 and I could not get back to sleep. So I essentially did not sleep after 2:30 last night. So that was really bad. But still, I got excited. I did a bunch of research this morning because I was just sort of up. So I just got up and started doing some work and getting ready for this, other things too. But I was actually in a pumped up mood, and I said, I'm not going to make mistakes today. I'm going to be really sharp. And from the outset of the show, I clicked it from the wrong account. So that does not bode well for how the rest of the show is going to go.
Well, Matt, before we get to the redactions, I was also up at 2:30. Kid had a nightmare, woke up, had a little bit of trouble getting back to sleep, but wasn't up all night. Although I did get up for my run at 5, and what really kind of brought me out of that cloudy head was jumping in the creek, doing the creek dip when it's 38 degrees outside.
I believe it.
Going. So maybe you need a cold shower, man.
I know. I mean, I think you're right about that. I'm totally on board with the health benefits and the awareness benefits, whatever, of temperature changes like that. I know the saunas are all the rage now, and I think for good reason. I would like to have a setup where I could switch back and forth between these things, not necessarily right in a row, but like just use temperature. I say that though, but then I think of what you just said, like just try a cold shower. And I'm never going to do that because I'm just not. I've tried it and it's miserable.
Well, I think cold showers are worse than like jumping in an ice bath or jumping in a cold creek.
I do too. I think you're right about that.
Because there's just the act of it turning on, and it's just, I don't know.
And there's contrast. Like part of you is not really in it, and just part of you is your back is like getting hammered. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. So I like the creek idea. I'm jealous. In a way, I'm jealous. In a way, I'm not, because I don't have to do that in the morning like you do.
Well,
good for you.
Yeah. Well, next time you're up at 2:30, maybe we should just go live. If I'm up too, maybe next time I'm up. Since you're up more often than I am, I'll shoot you a text and be like, if you're awake, let's go live.
That would be an interesting. I wonder if anyone would show up for that. What you should do when your daughter's not sleeping well is put on the plant-based morning show on your Echo Dot or whatever you have there. That's what we do at my house, and it usually works pretty well.
Talk about nightmares.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. All right. So what are the redactions here from yesterday?
Okay. Well, first, saying good morning to Mr. Jeffrey, who gave an enthusiastic good morning. Appreciate that.
All right.
All right, redactions. These are not these. I'm not going to remember them all. Literally, there were so many. First of all, I said Diwali was 5 days. It's actually called Diwali, is what the Indians pronounce it. I went across the street to my neighbor's house. They were doing sparklers and fireworks, and I said, "Hey, which day of Diwali is it?" And they were like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "It's it's 5 days, right?" And they said, "No, it's just one day." And I had said at the end that it was 5 days. Everywhere I look online, it says it's 5 days, but maybe it's the thing where like Christmas is technically 12 days, maybe in its strictest sense. Okay. If you were to ask me, I'd say, of course, it's just one day. I don't know. So that was wrong. The actual serious one is I was saying that. Oh my gosh, my brain is so bad. Farm sanctuary. I was saying we were talking about people compartmentalizing stuff and how some people like in vegan roles or like animal rights roles aren't vegan. And I think I said I think some people from there aren't. I remember what it was. It was that someone who worked for them was telling me about different donors they had. And that you'd be surprised at some of the large donors who, they give a lot of money, but they're not vegan. And perhaps giving the money is their sort of justification for not wanting to make that vegan choice. Okay. So that's I felt as I was saying it, I was like, man, like I love Farm Sanctuary, and I don't know why this is coming out like I'm bashing them. And that's what it was. I was really misremembering that bit of it. Not that anyone reached out or anything. It wasn't like a controversy. I just remembered and I wanted to fix that. Mm-hmm. I said the Taco Bell's steak, carne asada steak test was starting now. It was actually ending now, so that's mostly done. So don't track the date in Ohio because I told you to. And there was one other. Oh, this is not really a redaction. I just forgot. Remember that I was talking about Morning Brew, and this is what actually prompted the discussion about compartmentalization of things.
Yeah,
they were saying how the cow methane was so bad, and they had this. They were saying that technology was promising to fix this with these masks that the cows could wear that would block the methane. The other thing was almost as funny. They're inventing something called kombucha, which is like kombucha, probiotic for cows
to help the gut health of cows.
Instead of just eating less meat, we need to make special kombucha and give them masks. Is the solution?
Maybe they should quit feeding them like cheap feed and I don't know. Don't they feed cows? I don't know. I'm forgetting, but it's like corn, like things that they're not naturally able to break down properly, and
that's why the methane production.
Yeah, I mean,
I was thinking that may be right. Whole Health Experience seems to agree with you. I was thinking that it was just the sheer number of cows that exist on planet Earth is probably way more than it would be in a more natural situation. But apparently that's not it, according to the Whole Health Experience, who usually knows. So,
well, I think it's both. I think it's both, right? There's too many cows, and then also like we're causing the issue here by feeding them what they're not naturally supposed to eat.
Yes, correct. All right, so that's my redactions. The only other thing I've got, Doug, is I'm very concerned that I have plantar fasciitis. Have you ever dealt with that?
Ooh, that's not good.
In all my running days, never once had it, but I've been having intense heel pain since yesterday. Yikes. I was following the dogs around on the hardwood floor yesterday for an hour or so, just walking around, and has not better this morning. So I'm in rough shape today. I'm not too good, but I'm powering through. So we can jump into the articles unless you have anything else, Doug, before we jump in.
So I got one little quick story.
All right.
I'm sorry to hear about your foot. Did you really get it just from walking around the the house?
In the past few weeks, I started running again with my son and doing some workouts and stuff. So maybe that could cause it, but it has never hurt until yesterday. Just started. So I have no idea. Maybe it's not that.
So I can't remember if it was something we talked about here. I know we talked about it as a team on Slack, but I can't remember if we talked about it here. What the best way, our like favorite ways to eat potatoes. Did we talk about that? Favorite form of potato?
I think it was just on Slack. I don't think we got into them here. We talked about potatoes plenty.
Yeah. Well, okay. So my favorite way to consume a potato, is in tater tot form. It is by far the best way to eat eat potato.
Okay.
Hands down. And I realized yesterday we went out and met some friends in the evening, and we're getting some light dinner before we came home, and for the girls, and they had tater tots. And I realized I don't think that either of my kids have ever had a tater tot. Which, I mean, one of them's almost 6 years old. That's like terrible. It's so sad. And so they had their first tater tots yesterday, and oh man, was I hyping them up when we ordered these? I was like so excited, and they liked it. They thought it was good, but I don't know if it really I don't know if they appreciate it as much as I thought they would. But
right.
So they have now had their first tater tots.
Okay, good.
I'm proud. I feel a little bit more complete of a father.
I mean, that was a school lunch staple, and that's where I was introduced to it for sure. Kind of appalling that would be like a school lunch staple. Honestly, that's a serious fried snack food. That there's just way better ways to serve potatoes than that at school cafeterias. And I guess they did have like little hash, whatever, the little squares of potatoes. But yeah, so my kids, they like them too. And I've realized that when I eat them now, more than any other fried food, like I don't have a sensitive stomach or anything. When I eat potato tots and drink a beer at a brewery, I feel awful after that. Like I just think maybe somehow the surface area of those collects so much more grease than even French fries does, just because they have all the gradations on the on the surface. I don't know, but I always feel really bad after I eat tater tots, and they're addictively good, so you eat too many of them.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like I'm always careful around them now, just because I just eat too many and I don't feel good. But I like them. Kids like them. I get it.
Wonderful. I felt great.
Yeah. You need to buy like the frozen tater tots. That could be
those are always
corn
a
chips
letdown
in your house.
Always a letdown. Even though these are probably just that too. I don't know at this restaurant. I don't know how they make tater tots, but I'm sure they're not like hand making their tater tots. But like
I don't have a deep fryer to put them in. You have an air fryer.
I don't have anything. All I would have is an oven, or and that would it's always a letdown when you make tater tots at home.
Yeah, are they? I mean, they must be. Are they fried in advance once, and then the restaurant drops them in the deep fryer? That's probably why they make me sick, because I think they're deep fried to begin with,
double,
right?
double fried,
right?
Yeah, probably.
I think that's what it is. SJ Cookie loves taters in almost any form. Hubby's oven roasted breakfast potatoes are the best. See, much better potato choice there than
Mr. Jeffrey says any form as well. He also says next level is tater tachos. Oh, tachos, like nachos.
Tachos, yes. Yeah. I've had tachos, and also don't feel good after those.
And okay, all right. So I'm really excited about this. Is a first comment from my buddy Alex, who's been watching the show. So shout out to Alex. Nuff.
Oh, Nuff. Okay.
He says that tots are way more consistent than fries, and that is very true. Like fries from restaurant to restaurant can vary significantly, but tots are just tots. Tots are tots.
It's because everyone buys them frozen and they just put them in the deep fryer, and it's the same exact thing. Whereas some people actually cut their potatoes up. Strong Roots cauliflower tots. Oh man, Doug, I don't think that's music to your ears, is it? You don't want to hear about cauliflower tots.
I would eat that. I'd be excited about that, but I don't know. The whole health experience is always there to make us like feel like push us a little bit further in the whole thing.
I know. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too.
And Mr. Jeffrey said this is a hot take. Tots are to fries what Pringles are to chips.
Ooh.
That's kind of a good point. It's sort of a different beast, and sometimes not as good. Not as good as like the very best potato chip is better than a Pringle, and the very best fry to me is better than a tot. But the tot is more consistent.
I feel good about that. I don't disagree. I like that.
Okay. Good.
All right. What do we have? What are we talking about today?
I'll tell you who doesn't agree with that is Tom Brady. He does not eat potatoes, according to a recent article, because they're a processed food. I don't know if that's his words or the article's words, but that was news to me.
Maybe if he did, they wouldn't be below 500 right now.
That's right. Yeah, because last night, two nights ago, the Panthers beat up on him. Last night, Justin Fields led the way for the Chicago Bears. This plant-based quarterback, Justin Fields, finally, we've been covering him all these weeks, beat the Patriots, the evil Patriots, who I still don't like. Actually, I like them even less now that Brady's gone, because I realized Brady was a likable character, even though all those years of hating him. But anyway, so Justin Fields lit it up last night, relatively speaking. The Bears won. I think they scored 23 unanswered, won 33-14. I watched the first third of the game or so. They were actually losing when I went to bed. But he had a rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown, and listen to this eye-popping stat from ESPN. He's one of 2 players in the last 30 seasons to have more than 100 passing yards and 70 rushing yards, along with at least 1 passing and rushing touchdown in an opening half. The only player to do so, their last player to do so, was Russell Wilson in 2014. So,
wow, that is an eye-popping stat.
it's a lot of very specific stat, which which kind of cheapens it.
Who happen to be wearing green shoes, and
but hey, it's something positive for the plant-based quarterback. We've been sticking with him,
kind of.
And I realized we were talking about how like there are these projects that form on the internet where their sole purpose is just to get one person to do something. Maybe ours should be to get Justin Fields to pop in here one day on the live. I know he's got an Instagram account because we tag it now and then. And I would argue, although the other sites, Veg News, The Beat, they're getting these interviews with him. I think they're probably just text interviews. I don't really know. But I think we're the only one who's following him through the ups and downs. We're reporting every week how he's doing. So far, it's all been down, except this week. So I'm excited, and I'm glad. I feel like we're the only non-fair weather fans in the vegan news community, because we're with him through thick and thin. We've criticized him, but we're with him. So I would really love to get him on here. I don't think it'll happen, especially not during the season, but you never know. One can dream.
So everybody needs to go tag Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll work.
Show right now.
Yeah, so we'll get 17 people to go tag him on the morning after his Monday Night Football win, and somehow he's going to notice. Okay, but interestingly, Veg News, our friend Tanya Flink at Veg News has written a new article, Why Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields Went Vegan and Never Looked Back. Cool for me to see that. We like Tanya. And in fact, I'm starting to not like when Tanya has articles that I read, because I prefer Veg News to be this faceless behemoth that we can criticize and throw stones at when they get stuff wrong or when we don't like their headlines. But when it's when it's Tanya, I don't want to do any of that. I want to just praise the articles because she's a friend. But anyway, there is nothing to criticize about this one. She talks
headline.
About
good article.
Headline is fine, free of typos. Yeah, good article. She, no crazy no unnecessary sort of vegan arguments or anything like that. There was a little bit of news though from here. I'm trying to find what it was. Oh, he said that he's become more intentional about the foods he eats since going vegan. And the quote is, "Eating late night fast food is not an option anymore," he says. He must not be going to Dayton, Ohio, first of all, because Taco Bell coined the fourth meal. And that was, I don't know if they're still on that marketing campaign, but they were the original late meal that you would go have at midnight or after. And he's right. I mean, for a while when I was new to a vegan diet, that was it. You couldn't get fast food. There were tons of, you couldn't you had to eat before you go out to a bar because there wasn't gonna be any food for you there. You might eat before going out to a party because you might not find food. So all these healthy choices before a road trip, you pack your own stuff because there weren't other choices. Now that's all changing. There's lots of vegan fast food now, or relatively speaking, a lot more than there used to be. So it's not just this default good thing anymore. So hopefully he's not in for a rude awakening when he discovers that these things exist.
We need to get this guy on here so we can introduce him to tater tots.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, buy a frozen bag of those any time of day you want them. Mm-hmm. I think I read that he's doing Beyond Meat. I'm trying to skim this article and I'm just not in any condition to skim fast. But anyway, so he's doing some of that.
Chipotle.
He eats, Chipotle bowls, buffalo cauliflower, his iced coffee, and hopes to start a deep dish pizza restaurant one day. He's being in the Chicago area. We'll see if he still says that when he's on a new team. But I can't find the thing. I thought there was something about Beyond. Oh, he joined the Burger Brands. Okay, yes. He joined Beyond Burger's official roster of professional and former athletes. So 2 of our favorite things, Justin Fields and Beyond. I feel like we got to get him.
Yeah, got to.
All right, so that's Justin Fields. In just a serious news, LA joined the plant-based treaty. They've endorsed it. We talked about this a few weeks ago when there was a European town, I forget which one, small UK place, that was the first European town to endorse it. I thought that was the big news then. I didn't realize that other big cities had, Buenos Aires has done it before, has endorsed this thing.
Oh, I didn't know
LA.
that.
Yeah, so it was just that they were the first European one to do it. So LA's done it. So I mean, that's it's big news on these vegan sites. I don't know if it's really that big of news because, like I said, other big cities have. What was funny though this morning, I was trying to do a little research in my being my waking state, I just figured, why not do some research?
Yep.
Check that out. I've been kind of just sitting on that article for a while because the environmental stuff is just not that fun to talk about. It's just boring. I mean, it is. I'm not saying it's not important. It's just boring. But what I saw when I searched it, Google in the like related searches suggest was okay. Like there's this feeling of when you search whatever Chinese restaurant near me or fast food near me or vegan food near me much more often, or every now and then there's this sort of shameful like bar near me, or even worse, liquor store near me. And whenever I type that in, which it happens now and then, you need. I mean, you're
sure,
you
gotta get your
Cuervo, and you happen to be in it, not near your house or whatever. And I'm always like, it's just one of those moments when you see this search result. And I think everyone probably experiences this. Most people, maybe not everyone. It just feels like you're just embarrassed for yourself in some way to be typing that in, and especially when Google suggests it, and then you're like, "Yep, that's what I wanted." Well, anyway, what came up here, they suggested for this was vegan protest near me. It was a related search.
Vegan protest near me.
Yeah, I was like, is anyone like craving? Like they're just getting in the mood, and I was like, I gotta find one now.
Yeah, I gotta get my protest hit. Yeah, interesting.
I thought that was interesting. I didn't know anyone did that. First, I thought it was sort of a worst vegan guy ever move to do that. Just look for something to go be mad about. But then I thought, there are probably people who that's how they make their impact. They look for those protests. They believe in this movement. They're not looking for any protest. They're looking for a vegan one. If it was any protest, then I don't like it. If you're just looking for any way to go stir things up. But if it's vegan protest near me, I don't have any problem with that. Much as some people think that I have disdain for vegan activism or something. Stephen has accused me of that. I don't, and I think that would be totally fine if that's what you do with your time, is go find those things. I'm not gonna be doing that. It's not my preferred way.
But did you end up clicking it to see if there were any nearby?
I mean, it was 7 o'clock in the morning. I just can't imagine there was much going on, unless it was a Starbucks plant milk thing. I don't know. Yeah. So, Mr. Jeff, this crossed my mind too. Maybe more for people who saw a vegan protest and wanted to find out who was putting it on. Mr. Jeffrey is asking. So yeah, that's probably the real answer.
Speaking of protests, before we finish this treaty thing, did you see that the art, the people, that another group of kids, so there was the people threw soup on Monet or something.
Van Gogh, I think.
Van Gogh. I think that this latest one was Monet, and it was mashed potatoes this time. And then they super glued their hands to the wall again. So repeated the protest, except this time they used mashed potatoes. And I watched the video, and
what is the protest about again?
Climate activism, where I think it's just I think it's around money and attention towards art or towards museums or something, instead of and just forgetting about climate. I think that's what I remember. But my first thought when I saw this video, aside from wanting to talk about it here, was that the mashed potatoes were like super runny. I mean, it looked so gross. I was like, who made these mashed potatoes? No good vegan would make mashed potatoes like that. Wait,
is the soup thing a vegan thing or just a climate thing, or is it both?
No, I think it's a climate thing, but yeah, I would hope that they're vegan.
My mashed potato consumption plummeted when I went vegan. Honestly, I just stopped having them. I think I stopped being in situations where you'd have a meal where they were served, because I didn't often make them on my own. We now and then still do for Thanksgiving, but I feel like I just stopped having mashed potatoes when I went vegetarian and then vegan.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. I mean, when do you actually eat mashed potatoes outside of school lunches and
Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Or like if you go to Boston Market, does that still exist? I don't know.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm sure. All right, so LA joined the treaty.
Yeah, so the treaty. I had never actually looked into what the treaty is, so I figured I should do that. Would be a responsible thing to do. And I was reminded that it's like they promised not to build new animal farms, not build new slaughterhouses, no expanding existing farms, no conversion of plant-based agriculture to animal agriculture. So a bunch of that kind of stuff. There's more protection of indigenous peoples, their land, things like that. Ban live exports. Declare climate emergency. There's three different types of these things they're talking about. Introduce a meat tax. I mean, that's kind of interesting, with proceeds funding restoration of land destroyed by animal agriculture. So I don't know if one city, if they endorse this, there are probably 50 points in here. Are they making a promise that they're going to do all these things and by any deadline, or is it just sort of a vague kind of, nice little box to check? I don't know. But I did think a lot of the stuff doesn't really apply to cities. I mean, I don't know. Are slaughterhouses in cities? Probably not in LA
Oh, I think,
proper. LA is kind of
well,
spaced out,
LA is huge. I bet that
though. Yeah.
there's a slaughterhouse in LA. I'm almost certain of it.
Okay.
I mean, I
Well,
don't know that for sure, but I would guess.
I
But
think you're
like
probably right.
subsidies made for rewilding of and reforesting projects, reforestation projects. I imagine that they have some like pocket parks and things like that that would get
Yeah.
rewilded. I don't know.
What does rewilded mean?
Rewilding means like instead of mowing a lawn down flat, you let nature do its thing, and
Oh,
bushes would grow and wildflowers and all
well,
that
that's
kind of
no
stuff.
good. You should see what nature's done to the backyard of my house that we don't touch. It's terrible. It's a disaster.
Yeah, I don't think it. I don't think like a couple months of no mowing is really what they have in mind. I think it's more of like a couple of years of like intentionally rewilding it, reintroducing native plants and stuff to where you are. But yeah, I hear you. If you skip a few weeks of mowing, then it can get a little
Right.
wild.
Well, sometimes you gotta get worse before you get better. So maybe
Yeah,
that's
right.
the idea.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the climate or the plant-based treaty. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see more joining. And honestly, I think it's a good thing. We were talking about like the sort of yesterday ended on a hopeless note of people eating better, which it wasn't necessarily about people going plant-based, just about food in general. But I think stuff like this is pretty good. When a city kind of
Yeah.
voluntarily enters this, and like it's kind of this is a systemic issue. We've said the food problem for sure, and the non-vegan thing also. So when these things closer to the center of the system, do stuff like this, I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm actually not opposed to that at all. Uh, all right. On a related note, in the Washington Post, I had to do the old incognito browser trick to view this article. I don't know if everyone else does, nor do I understand how these newspaper sites are operating with that as their model, where you can just bypass the block by viewing in incognito.
Yeah.
But
There's
some of them
there's an even easier trick that works on other ones that I
where you
don't know.
just X out the window that says "bye."
No.
Because that happens too. It says,
Really?
join here to continue reading this article. And you can just exit away and just keep reading the article. And then I was like, well, I guess they never said that I couldn't if I don't join. They just said join and continue.
If you all you have to do, I mean, this isn't the case for a lot of them or for all of them, but for surprisingly large number of these sites that protect their content. Not that I am against at all paying for your content. I think that's a very good thing. I think newspapers should require that. But if you are trying to just see an article that maybe you haven't subscribed to, lots of times if you just hit the escape button before the page fully loads, because the last thing to load is the paywall.
Right, the blocker. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, and
What's
then
escape do? Just sort of pauses the loading?
yeah, it just stops the loading, and so then you get
Okay.
all the text, and you might miss some graphics or something, but.
You think we should have a paywall for the Plant-Based Morning Show? How many of the 13 people who are here live, how many would show up if it was a paywall? Back to 14.
They would just be hitting escape, like, get me out of here.
All right. So the article from Washington Post, here's exactly how your diet affects the planet, a landmark study finds. And it's the interesting thing here. They looked at all different food groups. They didn't do, I don't know what the classification was. They didn't do coffee, tea, tobacco, non-food crops. But foods they did. It seems like kind of a big hole that they need to figure that out because I think those are pretty big crops. But they looked at all the food crops and I guess they went further and deeper and looked at sort of like less direct consequences and further downstream, so to speak, consequences of different actions. And they determined what was the worst foods that we eat. It seems like beef and pork, or cattle and pork, I don't know what the terms they're using are, that unsurprisingly was the top, the worst. And no one's, I don't think, shocked by that at all. The surprising part to me was that the next thing they mentioned, and I don't know if this is the next on the study, but the next one in the article that they mentioned was fish, which although is only consumed about 1% of the total food is fish, 10% of the environmental impact is due to fishing, and it affects not just the oceans, but the land as well. So that's not a great thing when people seem to think of fish as a more sustainable source, I think.
Yeah.
And then they go on to talk about some grains being like just as impactful as some animal products. So rice and wheat ranked in the same tier of environmental impacts as animal-based products, including cow milk and chicken meat, which I don't think people think of as the worst of animal products, but certainly not innocent. because growing these grains requires so much water. But here, what's missing for me here is like a per calorie kind of basis. Like how much of like if 2/3 of the world eats rice and wheat, and also all the animals eat that too, which I don't know if they do, but if a lot of animal food comes from that, then the sheer volume of that stuff being grown contributing to how bad it is for the planet, it seems like we're kind of missing that number, right? Because if 100% of the planet ate the same one food and that food was causing 100% of our problems, we wouldn't say like, well, this is the problem. We would say, well, that's because that's all we eat.
I think that is important. I mean, and they say here they're grown at such massive quantities around the world that their disturbances to natural habitats and ecology are magnified. So this is taking into account that rice and wheat crops are at the same level as chicken and cow milk, dairy products, and things like that. But that's saying in their current form, because we're growing them in such a massive scale to feed the cows, to feed the chickens and all that stuff, that it has just as big of an impact. But I think you're right, on a per calorie basis, that may not be the case. I mean, I don't have the research, but it does seem that way based on what they're saying here.
Yeah. So more needed, but I think good thing. And I honestly love when mainstream things do point the finger at the animal agriculture first, because I don't know, as we do this, like you just realize, I mean, everyone already knew this before who reads the news, but like all the sources have their own little slant, and it's just, I don't know. It seems like very often the mainstream one is sort of against like we said yesterday, it's just vegan is still very, very strange for people. And I think a lot of people are still against it. And like, even if they really believe in climate stuff being an issue, a lot of people just don't want to acknowledge that the way they're eating is a huge part of the problem. So it's good to me when mainstream sources illuminate that. So that's that. On to much more exciting news. We tasted Beyond Meat's new plant-based steak tips. Here's how they measure up to the real thing. This is not us saying this. This is Vox saying this. I don't know what side of the Congress. What's the phrase there, Doug? What side of the aisle they're on?
Which side of the aisle they're on? Vox is definitely left leaning.
Okay, so not surprising then that they are mostly complimentary of the plant-based meats, or the new Beyond Steak. They like all the articles. They talk about Beyond's woes recently, or Beyond Meat's woes recently. But then they get into some of these different people, and there are some interesting things. A bunch of mix of vegetarians and omnivores got an early chance to try it. By the way, we were asking, what would one serve this on? What do you have with beef tips? Because when I Googled a dinner to make, all I was finding was beef tips and gravy. So we were saying, like you said, I think tacos. Is that what you said? Tacos?
Yeah, burritos or fajitas, stuff like that. Yeah. Any form of the...
It's the only food you make involve corn chips and Mexican food and things that you assemble into a pile and then wrap up.
I mean, that's like 80% of my food, basically. And tater tots might be another 10%.
Okay. Well, they mentioned the Philly cheesesteak, and that seemed like an interesting food. I've had a Philly cheesesteak not that long ago with Unreal Deli, it was called, and that was pretty good. So I would definitely try that with this. The verdict overall for them: delicious with some varying opinions on texture and just how close it comes to tasting like steak from a cow. One person, their policy editor, said this is uncanny. Her parents are from Nebraska, where they have a lot of beef, and she has a pretty high bar. Steak feels like one thing she'd never want to go artificial on, but her thoughts are very pro. Is that how millennials talk? My thoughts are very pro.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, my thoughts positive? Are fire. Yeah, I guess.
What was the? Oh no, we don't need to go on that. Yeah. So it sounds. Basically everybody liked it, right? There were just kind of varying opinions on how close it was to meat. It's kind of where I was.
Right. And honestly, that's where we stand right now with plant-based meats. Is like, if we're gonna do the thing where we put it right up next to it and say, is this exactly as good or exactly the same experience as the real meat? Someone's going to find something wrong with it. And partly, as this article later suggests, a lot of that may have to do with expectation. Whereas if you know that what you're eating is not real meat, the real thing, and you have this perception that plant-based meat is bad, then it's going to fool your taste buds. And that happens to everyone in every context of eating stuff. If you're expecting one thing, your chances are you're going to find it. So what you would really need is like true blind testing and stuff like that. And I don't know if that's really been done much, but that would be interesting to see, or as soon, especially I think, because I think it's going to be the stuff's only getting better. One person, a politics reporter, she was squishy on the texture. She said, "I feel there's a little toughness that's missing that you'd get from steak." And I think has been my experience when I've had like the Gardein tips or whatever they were. Yep. They were just like a little, not quite. They were just too tender. But then someone else really liked that there's a sensation that there were little pockets of fat distributed in it, which is something that I really enjoy in a regular meat sandwich. The sense that it's not all lean meat, that there's some textural difference within, that you're biting a piece. So this sounds like something I'd get mad at if that was the criticism. If they said it's missing the tiny little pockets of fat, I like the sense that not every. But in this case, they're saying that's actually a good thing. So way to go, Beyond Meat, for this. Yeah, and then one person said when they think of steak, they think of like sitting down to a steak. So I think they don't like the name of it. But apparently, this is using some technology of theirs that, if I can find it, you have it in front of you, Doug. It's like the 100% muscle or something. Oh, whole muscle technology, which is what some in the field have called the holy grail of plant-based meat. And the idea, I guess, is that it's like they're producing these fibers of meat, and then basically that it has the fibers in it. It's not just like a pile of mush like a ground beef product. Yeah. So I guess it's good. I'm still curious to try it. I can't imagine I'm gonna eat this all that often, but it sounds like something we need to try, Doug, and report back.
Absolutely. My favorite part about this article, the most interesting part to me, was towards the bottom. So again, this is on Vox, and it's Beyond. They tried the Beyond Steak, but it goes into the plant-based movement, or the plant-based meat movement, and how, is it dying or is it catching fire? It's something we have talked a lot about, but they have some stats here that I thought were kind of interesting. I guess there was no sales growth in plant-based meat in 2021, and from September 2021 to 22, there's a slight decline, which
in all plant-based meat, or just in Beyond Meat?
No, this is the U.S. supermarket sales.
Okay.
And I thought that was really interesting that there was no growth in between 2020, in 2021, because it seems like there's just every day we're hearing. I mean, we're covering it all the time. Every day there's there's a new product. So I can't believe that there's no sales growth. But they called out some important context here. The plant-based meat grocery stores jumped a whopping 45% in 2020 as customers panic bought groceries and cooked a whole lot more than normal.
That's what you did, right?
Yeah. We had a whole pantry here. Oh yeah. That wasn't so much Beyond Meats. It was mostly beans, but
I thought you said you bought all these burgers and we're having all those.
Oh, we did. Oh, we definitely did. Yeah. Okay. But I didn't do the whole stock up thing. We don't have like.
Yeah, it'd be hard to panic by that, because then you'd have to put it in a freezer, and
exactly.
I don't want frozen stuff in my panic supply.
But so I guess they went up a whole 45% in 2020, so now it stayed flat from there. So as like people are stopping the panic buy thing and going out to eat more and things like that, it's kind of stayed flat. So maybe that's probably the proper progression, right? Or it would be more in line if there wasn't a pandemic in 2020. It might be more in line with the proper like growth.
That's a good point. Yeah. So if you look over taking a longer view, 19% from 19 to 2021. So yeah, good point. Mr. Jeffrey adds, is that stat in dollars or units? Also sounds like they don't include restaurants. We don't know either one of those answers, I don't think.
Well, it's only supermarket sales. So
okay, so that's a big thing. I don't know how much. I mean, I would imagine most of the growth right now is happening in restaurants. Total guess, but it just seems like that's where you hear about new stuff more often. So yeah,
and
there you go.
And Nuff says that fajitas is where he goes with the beef tips too. So we're on the same page there.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, we have some more stuff. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We had a good lineup of stuff today. Let's really just hit it so we don't forget it. I feel like we never talk about studies that are like about health and benefits and things like that, just because, again, kind of just boring. Like, I don't want to be up here beating the plant-based drum when we're like, our whole audience is plant-based people. That's why they're here. But this is from PCRM. I mean, you got to take PCRM stuff with a grain of salt, because it sort of sounds like it's a medical institution. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They do a lot of research. They publish a lot of articles. But their stuff is always vegan focused. And I've never seen them publish a non-pro vegan article. I'd love to see one if there is one. I'd be happy to be corrected on that. So I'm always like, I just kind of, it almost feels like cherry picking. Like they're only going to publish the stuff that is positive towards this. But anyway, what they said is eating a plant-based diet reduces inflammatory dietary advanced glycation end products, which are called AGEs. I didn't know that long term. I just knew that AGEs is the acronym, and they are known as something that actually ages you and also apparently causes obesity. So I've always you can look up AGE charts for foods and you'll see the list. And mostly the plant-based foods are the good ones. Apparently, though, usually the research on these things has been done with like preparation techniques. And I think it's called the Maillard reaction. Could be totally wrong here, but I think that's the caramelization sort of reaction that happens when you cook. And the more that happens, and things like fried foods too, that skyrockets these AGE contents. So anyway, it's mostly been on these preparations. This particular study was on the swapping of the actual foods out. And what they found was another sort of weird thing. They had a control group who didn't do anything. And during the 16-week study, their AGEs in their diet went down 15%. So I have no idea why, if they were just the control group.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Very strange. But the group who ate the plant-based group, a low-fat plant-based diet, theirs went down by 79%, which is pretty massive, even compared to 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So the 15 is kind of a, like I would need to, if I was going to take this seriously, I must investigate that further and figure out why did the other group lose that if they're the control group. But still, large, good number. And just, I don't know. I know, like, I think a lot of times I like to do the hot take and do the thing that is not the expected pro-vegan take on things. But I feel like obligation is, let's point out when there are good things that come out about the diet. And this is one.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. And you're big on aging and anti-aging and living to be
4 years older than you, Doug.
Living to be 1,000 or whatever you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like live to the escape velocity, right? Get to the point where for every year you live, science prolongs your life by more than 1 year, and then you have infinite life, barring some sort of global disaster. Or eventually we'll get to that point. But by then, hopefully, we have vacated the planet and we're all home free.
So this is good. This is positive news.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive study stuff like this that we just skip because, like I said, just not that interesting. But I'm going to try to call them out because I'm tired of doing the same. I realize we do the same show every day. Basically, we talk about we talk about Beyond Meat bad news. We talk about the new Beyond Meat product or Impossible food product that's somewhere we probably can't get yet, and then we talk about something about how the vegan movement is being spread and throw rocks at one of the vegan news companies or something. I mean, that's what we do every show.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
So,
but for some reason, Mr. Jeffrey keeps showing up, and and the whole health experience keeps putting us in our place a little bit. So that's good. That's good.
All right. So that's it. I made it through the show. I'm glad for that. I'm going to try to sleep before our next one, and hopefully be back even better than today.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
That's imaginable.
Thanks, Matt. Hopefully there will be no redactions tomorrow, and
yeah, hopefully not.
Keep moving on.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for showing up, everyone.
Bye.
Talk to you later.